Hello, everybody, and welcome to our INICIVOX Mentor SkillShare session today. I'm Amy Summers. I'm founder of INICIVOX and also Pitch Publicity. And I'll also be moderating our session today. So let's get going because I want to introduce our mentor panelists and orient everyone to what we're doing at our session today. So at INICIVOX, our goal is to equalize mentorship through virtual means, simplifying the process of connecting with mentors. We remove barriers and create more access, delivering mentorship to accelerate your career development, regardless of your current stage. Our mentor format is a win-win. It provides you valuable insights for immediate career growth and enables mentors to reach a broader audience, unlike the less accessible one-on-one, let's grab coffee approach of the past. So this session will be brief. If you're here with us now, go ahead and say hi in the chat. Tell me where you're tuning in from. And then we're going to get right into introductions. But first, I just want to, before I introduce the panelists, I want to give some logistics. So we're going to use the Q&A box to submit your questions. So make sure that you click on the Q&A box and you have that open and ready. Maybe you have some questions already you want to already toss in there. That is fine. Please do that. When you ask your question, we're going to be inviting some attendees on camera to ask their question. But to be considered to do this, you need to include that I want to be on camera in your question. If you don't request this, then I'm going to ask your question on your behalf. And if you want to be completely anonymous, you can pick anonymous question and I won't even mention your name. But to ensure effective interaction with our mentors during this session, I really encourage you to request camera time when asking questions. And when I invite you on stage, Zoom is going to prompt you to confirm your camera access. So simply click confirm, and then you're just going to wait a few seconds without touching anything else on your screen. And it's going to seem like you're leaving Zoom, but don't worry, you're just joining us on stage. Then once on stage, you're going to turn your video and microphone on, and then ask your question. After your question is addressed, you'll be automatically returned to the audience without needing to press any buttons, and Zoom will just smoothly transition you back. So let's talk about that chat box because I see it going now. Please use the chat box to share your thoughts, reactions to any of our mentors' feedback, or to engage in discussion with fellow attendees. And if you have that question, though, it's got to go in the Q&A box because I might miss it if you put it in the chat. As you can see, our chat's already filling up. So make sure that it goes in the Q&A box. You can also, if you like somebody else's question, you can give a thumbs up on it. If there's more thumbs up on certain questions, I may ask those first. And then one more thing on the chat, make sure that the drop-down arrow there, it says to everyone. We want to keep our conversations public, and that way everyone can see your comments. All right, so I'm about to introduce our panelists. I'm going to launch a little poll right here. If you can answer our poll while I'm introducing our panelists, I want to find out how many trade shows you've been to. That's really going to help our panelists know, what the experience is in the room. And so first up, I'm going to introduce to you Brian Terry. Brian is Director of U.S. Retail Sales at Nordic Naturals. He's on the board of advisors for Vitamin Angels, on the board of directors for the Williams Franklin Foundation. He is an experienced leader in building high-performing sales teams for CPG brands at Nordic Naturals, Renew Life, and he's been on the retailer side too. He's been at Walgreens. He's also a champion for education and mentorship as a board member at the Williams Franklin Foundation and at Vitamin Angels. And he even won an award, an education award at NBJ just a couple of years ago for all his efforts he does in the industry. He is a thought leader. He's a networker on social impact, transparency, access. We are putting his links in the chat. So I hope you go connect with him now. And if you are from the Williams Franklin Foundation or you're involved in that group, please give a shout out to Brian now. Maybe you're involved with Vitamin Angels. Give him a shout out. If I have any Nordic Naturals people in the room, please welcome Brian now in the chat. I actually first met Brian at a virtual conference at NVJ Summit. Remember that, Brian?
Absolutely.
2020. And he was on a panel actually speaking about diversity and inclusion. And I messaged him to meet up with him in Zoom, and he actually accepted me. And we've actually been working together on a ton of initiatives ever since. And in fact, this year, Nordic Naturals even became one of our clients for my publicity agency, Pitch Publicity. So that's after 3 years of networking. It's proof that networking, even at a virtual conference, is highly effective. So welcome, Brian.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Hi, everyone. I look forward to connecting with you as well.
All right. Next up, we have Katrina Tolentino. She is Executive Director of Naturally Network. And Naturally Network is leading the nation's largest community of natural organic CPG industry members. I hope you are a member. There's about 9 affiliates so far. She's also the driving force behind the MO Fellowship. It's a game-changing program that empowers diverse founders to excel. And she runs that through Naturally Network. And she's just a powerhouse at community building, program development, networking events, fundraising, synergistic partnerships. We have her links in the chat for Naturally Network. Go see if you can find your affiliate in your area, or join the national one. I think you can do that, right, Katrina? Can anyone join the national?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, plug for the national. And I've got her direct LinkedIn contact there as well. Naturally Network will also be at Supply Side West. Anybody going to Supply Side West? Let me know in the chat if you're headed there to Las Vegas, or if you're joining Supply Side West virtually conference. They will be there at booth 1438. Now, Katrina, this is her second time on the INICIVOX stage. You may remember her from our Elephant in the Room Sexism Seminar series earlier this year. Katrina's organization, Naturally Network, was one of our partners of that series, and she participated in our first After the Elephant live sessions in that series. And actually, I first met Katrina right before another conference called the Fancy Food Show. Anyone go to the Fancy Food Show conference? This one was in New York, so I had put together this pre-party here at my home in New York City, and I invited Katrina. She had just accepted her position at Naturally Network. She didn't know me. I totally blind invited her to my home, and she was brave enough to come. And I always see that as like a testament of like, it proves that there is a power to accepting event invitations at conferences, even if you're not sure what you're walking into. Katrina was walking into my personal home. I mean, I that's really weird to some people, but she did it. And we've been fast friends ever since. So welcome, Katrina.
Thank you. And you had me at snacks, so I was very happy to come to your home.
All right. Now, speaking of Naturally Network, many of you might know I'm a founding board member of Naturally New York, along with Sean Connor, who I am introducing now. Sean is, he's on the executive board. He's a founding member of Naturally New York. And he's also a co-founder and chief progress officer at Force Brands. The Force Brands is connecting top tier talent with meaningful opportunities. If you are looking for talent, if you are looking for a job, you have to know what Force Brands is. So we have Sean's links and LinkedIn here in the chat, but also Force Brands. Follow them now. I get so many people ask me, can you help me find a job, my next job? Or I'm job searching, but I don't want my boss to know about it. You need to let Sean know about it. Quit contacting me. Force Brands. He is an expert in networking, in forging really powerful connections and scaling success through effective team building. He is just a wizard at structuring high growth brands. And, Sean and I think, we first met because when we started working together on the board, and one of the things that always stands out to me about Sean is that you run into him at a conference, his smile just lights up the room like a lighthouse. Like you're going to just gravitate to him, kind of like he's smiling now. And you have the most positive energy too, Sean. It's just like, I'm really hoping that today you share your secrets on how to be more approachable, because I think that is part of what makes you such a success. So welcome, Sean.
Amy, thank you so much. No, really excited. This is the perfect topic. Definitely excited to share. And also, thank you for the opportunity to be on this panel and discussion, and just share the stage with both Brian and Katrina. And as someone mentioned in the chat, yes to positive vibes.
All right, so I'm going to end our poll just to give everyone the results here. And it looks like we have quite a 50-50 crowd here. So we have a lot of newbies. You have people that have been to like 1 to 10 trade shows. And then over 50% here in the room have so many they can't even count anymore. So we have quite a mix. That's good. I'm going to get things started, but I'm going to check our Q&A. It looks like we already have questions coming in, but go ahead and throw your questions in the Q&A. I'm going to start out with just a warm-up question that I am going to ask everybody. And the warm-up question before we get to putting people on stage is it advisable to approach a decision maker at a company's trade show booth without a prior appointment? And if so, what's the most effective approach? And Brian, I'm going to start with you only because you have worn many hats in this industry on many sides of the table. And I'm sure you've also been looking for jobs too, as well as you've been on the retailer side and on a major brand side. And now you are a major decision maker. So I think you can give us some of your feedback.
Yes. Honestly, most people would say no, but I would say yes. But it's taking a reading the room in the situation. If they're speaking with someone already, that's not the time to jump in. But if you happen to see someone and maybe they're by themselves, or it seems to be more of a not as strict kind of conversation, most people are very engaging as a whole. And I say, treat every connection almost as if it's the first impression from a job interview. Some people like to look at it as if dating, where you're trying to find the right moment to pop in and say, okay, now's the time to speak with this person. Take a lot of your social life and kind of integrate that into the right part of business in the right situations. The only thing that I will say, though, is that when you're trying to be memorable, in those situations, do some research on that person, understand maybe their likes, dislikes, understand things that might be going on with their company, and recognize, not only the badge from the company, things like that. And you can also maybe speak to other people that might be within that booth or the organization to say, hey, is such and such available? Can you introduce me? Those things, those are all kind of little icebreaker sort of events. But, it's okay to do a little research, have a real conversation so that you could be memorable when introducing yourself to people, and then follow up. That is, once you meet them, whether there's LinkedIn or figure out the email or exchange information, share your interaction and why it's important to maybe get to know each other, and why that you might be good for them to know as well.
All right. Katrina, go up to somebody without an appointment. Are you going to do it?
Yeah, I'm with Brian on this. I think that read the room, right? But absolutely, because we're all there for the same reason. We're all there to meet people. And as you can see, my dog is ready to do something else. But when you're going up to a booth, they're in the booth for a reason. They're there to meet you. Now, if you are like Brian said, if they're deep in conversation with someone, just maybe take a beat, maybe see who else is in the booth. It's always great to connect with non-decision makers in the booth as well. Maybe ask them questions around what their goals are for the show, so that when you are talking to the decision maker, you have a better understanding in the context that that person is operating in. And so, again, really approaching it from a human perspective, and making sure that you are not showing up where it's just about you, right? You're offering value, you're understanding the context and the situation, and you can also be helpful.
Sean, would love to hear what you have to say. Some people go to trade shows and they're looking for a job even.
Yeah.
So, give us that perspective.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with both Katrina and Brian. It's, how do you create that memorable kind of first impression? I found success in showing interest in their business, showing interest in their product, asking meaningful questions that allows for just some sort of engaging conversation, but also be aware and be mindful that they are there to conduct business, right? So, with that being said, maybe have your pitch in a pinch. Like, what are the 2 bullet points you want to share about yourself or why you're at the trade show, and maybe, finding an opportunity to connect after the trade show. And then after the trade show, actually, even after sometimes the interaction I have with that person, I'll immediately on my phone take some notes about our conversation. And then I will also immediately connect via LinkedIn, which is such a powerful tool. And then shortly after, following up, hey, amazing meeting you at the trade show, loved trying or loved hearing about your business product. Here are the things that, that interest me, would love to set up a follow-up conversation. So I definitely think, being mindful, but also being prepared on what are the quick, bullet points you're going to share, can help create that like memorable moment. And what I will say, just to put out there, I've been to like probably like 50, 70 trade shows. To this day, I still get butterflies when I go up to a CEO, founder. Like, I don't think it's like a natural, well, maybe it's natural for many people, but definitely not for me. I still get that feeling. So, I think it's important to just acknowledge that.
All right.
And
So
try again. Try again if they're busy, right? It's okay to come back.
Yes, totally. I mean, I've been to, I'll circle the aisle like several times before I'm like, oh, now's a great opportunity to meet that person that I did some research on and said, look, this is someone that's pretty meaningful.
all right, so we're going to take our first question, and I'm going to bring on Tyshawn to the stage here. So here we go, Tyshawn. It's going to come your way. And Tyshawn has a question, I think to everybody, but maybe everyone can chime in real quick on this one. And Tyshawn and I are actually going to be, we're going to be on a mentor panel next Wednesday, right, Tyshawn?
Oh, we will. No,
Yes,
yeah,
live.
yes. I'm excited. I'm excited. Indeed.
All right. Ask your question.
So, so first of all, good morning, everyone. So my question is, and maybe each of you can take this question. What would you say the top 3 mistakes are that new brands make when preparing for their first trade show?
I can start. I think one of the things that brands might do that, and it's more of the people within the brand, they kind of stick within themselves. It's okay to meet with other people, leave the booth for a little bit, see what it is that you like, for if you want to have different booth iterations. People change that information all the time. Do I want it backlit? Do I want shelving? Do I want, take everything as an idea. The other thing I would say was treat everyone as a customer and consumer. So sometimes people are only looking for the buyers, but what you also have in a trade show is, if it's like Expo West, you got 50,000, or so potential customers that are consumers that are willing to try your brand, not only as a taste, but also understand what it is that you're about and what it is that you represent. So treat everyone as a consumer, as well. And then I would say participate in some of the social aspects that are there. I mean, you don't want to overdo it, but I would say that there are many events, there are unique situations. All of your best deals are not going to happen exactly on the trade show. There's, whether it's at the hotels, at the bars, at the just walking around, having conversation on your way to the show. There are all situations in which interacting with people would be some of the best ways in which I've seen understanding who those customers are and being able to touch them.
All right. Anyone
That's a great
want to chime in on Tyshawn's question?
Sure, that's a great point, Brian. I think one of the things that I'm thinking a lot about is the mental preparedness prior to going to a trade show. It's sort of the attitude that you're walking in with. And so one of the things I've been saying a lot to brands when they're first going to trade shows is you are not bothering anyone. You are advocating for yourself. And so you advocate kindly, advocate with awareness, and also offer value, right? When you're advocating for yourself, you can also advocate for others. And so oftentimes, when you're preparing for a trade show, you can be so singularly focused on your specific experience that you forget to kind of approach it more from a human perspective, right? You're interacting with, if you're at Expo West, you're interacting with 80,000 other humans, and they're all there for their own reasons. So sometimes taking a second to understand the other person's reasons and why they're there, it opens up the conversation and creates more opportunity for you as well. So for me, some of the things that are most important are sort of the general ethos that you approach the trade show with, and the mental preparedness aspect. I mean, there's so much that you can do tactically as far as, all the research and things like that, but that research won't come in handy if you can't connect, right? And so focus on the connection, be human, and ask the other person first what are their goals for the show and how you can help.
All right. So since we have such short time, Tyshawn, I'm gonna move you back. But hey, if you're missing Tyshawn, you got to come back on Wednesday and check us out. We're gonna tell you how at the end of this, because we are doing something together at Supply Side West. And we have a question coming in right now for specifically for Sean. So you're going to get some time here. I'm going to bring Ladora up on stage. Let me see if I can find her. Oh, did she? Oh, there she is. Okay. All right. Ladora coming on camera. Here we go. And let's see. There she is. Hey, Ladora. Turn your volume up.
Yes, I'm the queen of mutes. Hi, everyone. Good to see you.
Hi.
Thanks for joining the session for all of us to hear your tidbits of information. Yeah, I do have a question for Sean. My question is, how do you stand out on paper when looking for a new job? And how can you leverage that into a personal brand when meeting in person?
Awesome. Yeah, great question. I think, the resume aspect is one dimension of kind of showing credentials and experience. I think the other kind of method is, whether it's the cover letter or introduction email on a little bit about yourself and what makes you a great candidate for that organization. Why are you connected? Why are you interested? Why do you tie in to the mission? I think could be pretty meaningful and help stand out from, anyone just sending resumes or just generic cover letters. I will say couple that with, kind of, in-person interactions of, again, why are you connected to that business, the product, the mission, any values that stand out to you. Today, there is so much information on any of the business's social media channels. If you go on their LinkedIn, you go on their Instagram, like there's so much content that brands are typically putting out for their employer branding. And so what can you take from those channels and again, leverage as a way to connect and create a memorable moment or interaction?
Thank you.
Yeah, no, great question.
Thanks, Ladora. We're going to send you back. We have another question coming in from Shelby. And this one is for Katrina. So Shelby, I'm going to move you to panelists. And Katrina, I think you met Shelby because she was with me at Fancy Food Show. She's a pitch publicity intern, and that was her first conference. It was a long day. I always warn them. It's like a 13-hour day. So Shelby, I know you had a question for Katrina specifically about
Yes,
how
and
to
we were just
prepare for
talking
those
about
long days.
yes, trade shows are super long. So I was wondering, what are some essentials you like to bring when you know you're going to be at a trade show, maybe all day or even a few days in a row?
Yeah, that's like I actually have a bit of a regimen. So even prior going to a trade show, I already take a multivitamin, but I amp up all of my immunity. So it's been a while since I've actually gotten sick coming back from a trade show since I've started doing that. So that's number one. And then I bring all those vitamins with me, and I don't stop taking them. But just to prep for the long day, this is going to sound strange, but I always bring an extra pair of socks, chapstick, eye cream because I'm exhausted, and electrolytes. That's how I kind of get through the day, because even if I can't eat, I need to make sure I'm hydrated.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
All about the health. You're welcome.
Totally. Wear comfortable shoes. That's my biggest thing. Like, I will buy a new pair of like really comfortable, running, walking sneakers that can and it makes a difference. Like, I've done the show where it's like I'll have a driving loafer and the next day I'm like hurting. But then wearing comfortable shoes is the absolute essential for myself. But then also, to your point, Katrina, mental health and wellness. Like, if you're going to be at a trade show for 3 days, you can easily run yourself into the ground. So manage your hours, get up early if you can, work out, stay as much in your routine as Katrina mentioned, because you will go back home and you may get sick if you don't kind of manage and prioritize mental health and wellness, for sure.
Brian, what about you? What are you packing in your bag?
You gotta have water, you gotta have the comfortable shoes, like you said, the hydration, but also have a little bit of a plan or map to okay, these are some of the areas, even if it's not exact booths that you want to attend, these are some of the areas that I want to check out, and build in their times for almost like rest, even if it's just kind of a mental checkout, even if it's just finding a place to sit down for a little bit, because as the day goes on, that cognition, that repetition is not going to be going on all cylinders, and the time in which you might meet that key person that you want to meet at 5 o'clock, and if you're dog tired, that you definitely want to take all that under consideration with a plan of, okay, these are the areas that I want to visit, and break in some time to eat and take and rest.
Totally. Just one more thing. I'm actually at an investor conference right now, and I always bring this stretch strap. So like it like literally helps
To
like
strangle them, Sean?
No. This is like literally for like the most relief for hamstrings and like back. Like, again, I'm like, it's so important, especially if you've been walking all day, to like stretch, whatever. So
Man, I bring my Theragun too.
there you go. I had to share it.
And Arnicare is great for muscle tension. So that's another good one. All right, Shelby, this was a good one. Thank you so much. I'm going to shoot you back to attendee. And let's see. I have another question coming in from Tiffany that we're going to go to right now. So Tiffany, I remember Tiffany's first conference. She doesn't work for me anymore, but she's a former pitch publicity intern, and her first conference was actually at Supply Side West, right, Tiffany? That was your first conference with me. And her eyes, first conference, Las Vegas.
Oh my gosh, that was my first conference.
Into the deep end.
Oh yeah, exactly. And then less than 6 months later, I went to Mandalay Bay for a different conference with a new client.
And her new company. So she was ready. So what's your question, Tiffany, to everyone? I know you have a question for everyone.
Yeah. So my question for everyone would be, I know we just talked about, prioritizing health, different networking events, but since there's so many different events that go on here, how do you prioritize which ones to go to? And then a second part to that question is, what is the best thing for the first impression? Is it the look? Is it what you say? Is it the connect afterwards? Like, what should be the one key takeaway for these networking events?
I can start. That's a great question. I think that it's really easy to have FOMO, right? Because you've got all of these events and all these people are talking about all the things that they're doing, and maybe you should do them too. But for me, I really prioritize the quality of the connections that I'm making. And especially if I'm having a great conversation with someone that I really want to be connected with, I stay there. And you don't know what's going to happen if you leave, but you know that you're making a connection now. So I try to prioritize the connections that are happening in front of me. And the best first impression in my mind is just being present. A lot of the time when you're talking to someone at a trade show, their eyes are darting everywhere, they're moving a lot, they're fidgeting, because I think, again, with a FOMO, they're thinking about the next thing that they have to do or want to do. And so, I think you leave a lasting impression when you are in the presence of someone that is welcoming you, as well as being present with you, and really hearing and listening to what you're saying. I always remember those people.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, I think it's all of the above, in terms of, making a memorable connection, having a meaningful conversation, doing the research. Like, I think the more you can do, the better in position you are to build a relationship. But sometimes you can't do the research. Sometimes you are, meeting people on the fly. And so what are the things that you are sharing? How are you engaging? How are you understanding, about their business? Maybe, are you sharing, 2 to 3 key facts that you've read because you done some research going into that trade show, right? So I kind of think it's all of the above. I don't know if there's like one silver bullet on that end. And so, that's what I would share. And then in terms of the events, there's so much going on typically. I think, again, depending on what your intention is, can maybe change or alter what events you go to. But I think even before you get to there, it's like understanding what are the events, right? Like, there's some that are put on directly from the trade show, and then there's others that service providers will typically partner on and put on, right? So how do you get access to those? Like, and who are you talking to understand what else is going on outside of the trade show, and who's typically attending those events? Like, I think that's probably the most meaningful way you can connect after the trade show floor most of the time. And so how do you get access to how do you put yourselves in a position that you're getting access to a lot of those events? And again, I think it's doing your research, it's talking, networking. Hey, what are the few things going on before, during, after the show that you would recommend I attend? So it is, kind of putting yourself out there a bit.
The other thing that I would add to that, so I'll take a little bit of a different approach. I think, everything Katrina and Sean is absolutely dead on. And I think the other thing to consider is kind of that self-esteem and confidence and trust in everything that you've done. So what comes with that is, if you look good, you feel good, and everything like that, and it'll help have that confidence. And if you feel good, you'll play good, sort of thing is kind of the taking it from there. And a lot of times people, while trade shows can, you absolutely want to have that impression on the feet. One of the things that I've always heard people say coming up is, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And those are things that, while doing that, will make you feel good, right? And that'll help you feel good internally, and it'll help you help exude that confidence and trust, because most people don't. If you want to have that quick interaction, you don't want it to be one in which you're kind of fumbling and stuttering and things like that. And just that self-esteem, that confidence in everything that you've done to prepare for that will help make the connection and trade show experience more memorable. But make sure you wear the comfortable shoes while trying to look good and feel good too.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you. I'm going to shoot you back. All right, we have a anonymous question. So I'm going to ask that one next. And this is to everybody. And I'm going to start this one off with Sean. So how do you handle networking during cocktail hour at trade shows? Any personal guidelines on alcohol consumptions and strategies for engaging clients or celebrating with colleagues, especially in situations involving heavy drinkers?
Yeah, great question. And, I think in terms of, attending a lot of the cocktail hours, again, I think it's an opportunity to meet new people and make meaningful connections, following the trade show. I always would recommend to just be cautious on, either, what you're consuming or how much you're consuming and who you're surrounding yourself with. I mean, at the end of the day, we are conducting business. You want to put yourself in a position where, you are put in the most professional position that you can be. So that is the very kind of baseline I will suggest. But I will also highlight the fact that there's just so much going on other than the cocktail hours. Now you'll hear about incredible organizations like Project Potluck put together a networking session even during the trade show hours for people that are in their community and looking to advance in their career that are of, color, and someone that is trying to, meet people that are, in the same kind of position that they're in. So, when I went to BevNet, there was a breakfast put on from, female founders within the beverage industry. There's just so many of these activities and networking opportunities outside the typical cocktail, hour party. And again, those are great opportunities, but just be mindful on the position that you're trying to hold, and you're mindful.
All right, thanks. Well, I'm a big fan of this show on Apple TV called The Morning Show, and they just had an episode about this Katrina because the executive of this network was trying to wine and dine some advertising executives to get a deal, and she was a little thing. So you and I have that in common. We're little things. And she actually gave the bartender like $100 to say, please just bring me water and say that it's Jen. So I'm curious, what do you do when you're power networking?
Yeah, I drink a lot of club soda with a lime. I ask them to put it in a different glass so it looks like I'm drinking something else. A lot of the times, people, if you don't have something that looks like an alcoholic cocktail in your hand, people will ask you, oh, let's go get one, or they'll bring you one, right? So to kind of just cut through all of that, making it look like you have one. But at the same time, I think that not drinking is also becoming much more widely acceptable. And so I think that, if I don't necessarily think that you have to hide that either. I would say that if you are going to choose to do it, I would, 2 drinks max. And honestly, if you're doing your job right in the room, you should be too busy talking, and you should barely be able to get through 1 drink that whole time. So if you are drinking something quickly, you may be, and this is tough feedback, but you might be hiding behind that. So that's just something to check in on, right? So I would say 2 max for the entire evening. I'm not talking 2 an hour. I'm talking the entire evening. And club soda is always your friend. And we are in the natural products industry. There's plenty of non-alc brands out there that are at these events now. So definitely take advantage of those.
All right, Brian, you've been in the industry a long time and in many different roles. How do you handle the cocktail hours?
It's really about pacing, not only yourself, understanding what it is that you can do. As Katrina mentioned, being able to speak in with multiple people across the room. Think of it as a way that it's a first impression for a future job. You never know who you're going to come in contact with. So I would say understanding your limits. If you are going to do it, then make sure you're cutting it, like they say, club soda, maybe some Sprite, maybe ginger ale, and just tell the bartender, hey, put it in this other cup or whatever the case may be. Therefore it can provide a little bit of a shield or protection for you while you're not so inebriated that you can't function. I mean, everybody remembers the person that gets dragged out, and that will stick with you. That will stick with you for a year, maybe throughout your whole career. So you don't want one night of trying to keep up with, in some cases, some real professionals to really ruin your reputation. And, you end up throwing up or passing out on the floor, or, those are all things that we've seen happen at these events, and people always remember those perception is reality, and those impressions will last forever.
Yeah, and there are some professional drinkers out there. You got to watch them. All right, this is really good advice. So we're down to the wire now. We've got about 5 more minutes to go, 4 more minutes. Before we came on, we were kind of having a pre-chat about how to do networking and act like a human. So my final question to each of you, and we'll just go around the room on this, is I want to know what's your best conversation starter when you're trying to talk to someone that you've not met before, and you can throw into what is the worst conversation starter. Like, do not start a conversation with this with someone you don't know. And what's the best one? Sean, I'll hand it to you first.
That's a good question. For me, the best conversation starter is just asking about their business. It's about asking about their product. I think the small talk of all the generic questions, I just think it can kind of, they want to know, like, is there some connection here? Is there interest here? And if not, I have to find the buyer, right? So again, being mindful around that. So I just think, less small talk, being, super direct and intentional about their business is the absolute key.
Brian, before we came on today, you said this is kind of like dating. So you want to tell us what's the best conversation starter for networking? What's the worst? What do you stay away from?
Yeah. So like Sean said, you want to thinking about who you're interacting with, that personal interaction, and say, hey, you know what? I saw this new item that your brand has come up with. I mean, there's Google, there's everything that's in that show that, hey, I saw you all just launched this. I'm really, I've looked at some of the data, and, you guys are crushing it with, within the space. I'm really excited about a new item in which you're launching. Or if there's something that is not going, that is maybe not going as well, it's okay to sometimes say, hey, is there anything that's keeping you up at night? People like to speak. Sometimes people like to talk about themselves. And in those situations, the more that you become a listener, and then you can play off of that, allow these people to talk about themselves, talk about their brand. That is the way that you can help do it. Like you said, the worst thing is generic, kind of that generic, hey, how are you doing? Fine. Like those very close-ended questions will get you nowhere and are not memorable. But if someone asks me something very specific that that pertain to my situation, I'll absolutely remember that. And that is probably the thing in which don't ask that close-ended question.
Katrina, you are a great networker. I can't wait to hear what your best conversation starter is. You're always trying to recruit at Naturally Network anyways. I know you got to have some good ones, and they got to be original.
Well, one of my favorite questions to ask is, what are you really excited about right now? Because that they can it gives the other person the opportunity to talk about their business, to talk about their personal life, that you can build other connections off of, right? Like at Expo East, when I asked that question, I found out that someone that I've known for a long time is actually a marathon runner and just had great PR progress. And so I think just getting to know someone on that human level builds on the business relationship that you have. So open-ended questions that allow the person to really speak to you, where you will learn things about them that aren't on LinkedIn, right? Because those are things that they may hold a little bit closer to their chest. And then on the flip side of that, building off of Brian's answer, I think what is one thing that you would like to improve on in the next 6 months? And I like the 6 months part because it is something that is urgent for them that you may be able to help support or connect them with someone that can support them. And that can make you be a lot more memorable also.
Well, thank you all. This has been great fun and great prep. I think most of us are headed out to Supply Side West next week. And if you're here joining us today and you have no idea what I'm talking about and you're not going to Las Vegas, it's fine, because actually next Wednesday, we're doing a mentorship panel at Supply Side West. We're going to put it in the chat. It's going to be at Supply Side Studio. But if you're not going, you can watch for free. We're going to be on YouTube, on Supply Side's YouTube. So be sure to check that out. And as well, I hope you enjoyed your time with us today. Please fill out our survey. It really helps us plan for future Mentor Skillshare sessions. And I will say that we're going to have one more before the end of the year. We're going to do one more next month. So please join us on Thursday next time. It'll be Thursday, November 16th at 12 p.m. Eastern. And you'll be seeing some of my promos on that coming out soon. But we are going to have a panel of experts to address how do I respond to career questions from family? So we're hitting you right before you head back home for the holidays. And we know we get all those prying questions from, good intentioned, but, a little bit nosy family members about what's going on in our careers. And maybe nothing's going on in your career and you don't really know how to answer those questions or you don't want to. We're going to have some experts here that'll help guide us on what we can do in those situations. But thank you all again for coming, and we will see you next time, if not in Vegas.